All right, it is September 26, 2024. It's 3:31 p.m. I'm Mayor Shelley Carlson, Chair of the Diversion Board, calling the Diversion Board meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I'm here.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Ebinger.
Here.
Ms. Kolpak.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Sherling.
Here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Here.
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Mr. Seljold.
Here.
We have everybody today.
All right, thank you. I think having the Colonel here has brought everyone here, with one exception. Everyone is here in person. It's our welcoming committee to you. Moving on to the approval of the August 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to number 3, the approval of the order of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move the approval of the order of the agenda with moving item 4C on the consent agenda off the consent agenda for separate discussion.
Okay, and where would you like that moved, Commissioner Grinberg?
Probably Commissioner Campbell, if you have a preference.
Are you talking just about 4C?
4C, the MOUs for Clay County 37-foot. 4CI.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. It doesn't matter to me where it goes.
Let's put it under finance if the finance chair will agree to that.
It's fine. Second.
Okay, so there is a motion to approve the order of the agenda with removing CI off of the consent agenda and putting it under the finance agenda item. With that, I have a motion and a second. All those in any discussion, further discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. This would be a motion to approve the following items listed on the agenda with the exception of CI. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
Madam Chair, move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Roll call vote. Roll call vote.
Oh, yep. Don, could I roll call vote, please?
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Yes.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Seljold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries as well. All right, moving on to our regular agenda. Number 5 is a co-executive director update, and I will turn this first item over to Mr. Wilson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. Robert Wilson, Co-Executive Director. I just wanted to give you an update this afternoon on the Executive Director recruitment. On September 6th, about a month ago, the application period closed for applicants. A few days after that, on the 9th, Chair Carlson, Vice Chair Grinberg, myself, Mr. Redlinger, and Tracy Peters, Assistant County Administrator and Human Resources Director for Cass County, reviewed the applicants and selected 6 preferred candidates. Those preferred candidates are scheduled for interviews on October 4th that would be held in executive session. We would anticipate that at the conclusion of that executive session, those interviews, the board would return, the planning committee would return to open session and identify finalists that would be identified publicly. And hopefully, depending on schedules, we would anticipate and look forward to scheduling finalist interviews with the full board in open session on October 18th. And if at the conclusion of those interviews, the board were to make a recommendation for an appointment, then that would be scheduled for your October meeting that comes up on October 24th. So to this point, we feel very fortunate that that schedules have held, that we were able to maintain that schedule and at least give you the opportunity to potentially appoint at your October meeting. And we look forward with some fingers crossed and candidate schedules aligning with schedules as we've checked them with you to this point, that we will be able to proceed on that time frame. And I would stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Seeing none, this was an information-only agenda item, so thank you very much for presenting that. And thank you to the board members for adjusting your schedule accordingly so that we can continue moving this process forward. Next item agenda is MFDA governance policies, and I will turn this over to our other co-executive director, Michael Redlinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Authority. Good afternoon, and thank you for the time to preview this item for you. You'll recall that a couple of months ago in mid-July, the Board of Authority met to discuss some modifications to the governance policies that you worked with Dr. Schatz. And so Dr. Schatz was through. Most recently, in September, about a month ago, the planning committee gathered together to look at a redline version of that document that our general counsel has assisted us with. And so that is in your packet in redline form today for your consideration. If approved by the Board of Authority today, this will the red lines will be removed, and we'll make sure to distribute this policy for everyone and make it available for future board members should they join us next year. So in your packet is that red line copy. The board is asked to take the planning committee recommendation to approve the governance policies here at your regular meeting today. So happy to answer any questions, but just want to thank the Board of Authority as well as our planning committee for some in-depth discussion on this item over the last several months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Redlinger. Any questions from committee members or comments? Seeing none, I'd be looking for a motion to approve this agenda item.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. One more opportunity to have questions or discussion. Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Salzbold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries. Moving on to general counsel update, I'll turn this over to Mr. John Shockley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of items on the agenda today, which is somewhat unusual for the general counsel. The last couple of months have been rather quiet months. So the first item that is on the agenda under general counsel updates is the Cass County HR MOU Amendment Number 1. You'll recall the discussion of the board previously was that the board wanted to return to, instead of having its own policies, it would return to following Cass County HR policies. The amendment before you will move the authority employees back to following the Cass County HR policies. This matter was discussed both at the Planning Committee and at the Finance Committee, and I'm going to summarize what I think are two different recommendations coming from the two different boards. Ultimately, it is a policy decision for this board to resolve. The one item that the two boards differed on, both boards recommended approval of the HR amendment and bringing the employees back to Cass County HR policies. The only difference between the two boards with regards to recommendations was the treatment of COLA. So the Finance Committee, I'll go with the Finance Committee recommendation first, was to follow the Cass County COLA policy, the cost of living adjustment, for now, and come back at a later time and potentially amend that to a different system, maybe perhaps like the triple RDC or some other system. The Planning Committee recommendation was to adopt the HR MOU with a COLA that mirrored the triple RDC cost of living adjustment. And that is taking the cost of living adjustment for each of the member entities, blending it together and dividing it by 5 and coming up with an average rate for the cost of living adjustment for the employees. So two slightly, they're very similar recommendations, but slightly different. The determination of how you adjust COLA is obviously a policy decision. Whatever the board wants to go with, we can adjust the HR MOU to match the direction given by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Questions or comments from board members? Director Steen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the current action or proposed recommended actions to approve the proposed First Amendment to the MOU between Cass County and MFDA for HR services, correct? As is.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. To get this on the table, I'll make a motion to approve that recommended action. If I may. If it's out of
Yes.
order, you can tell me I'm out of order as well.
Your motion would be to approve the HR MOU.
As
As-
written, without amendment.
Okay. Okay, motion and a second. City Attorney Shockley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarity, by making that motion, it is adopting Cass County policies wholesale, which would include how Cass County adopts the COLA. So just for discussion purposes, once again, I do not want to jump into the policy discussion of what the COLA should be. I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same table talking about what the issue is.
Thank you for clarifying. Director Steen.
Madam Chair, thank you. At yesterday's meeting, we had a pretty lengthy discussion with regard to the COLA adoption, and it really had nothing to do with which is the right way to do it. It's is at the right time. There's some significant differences, I think, between the different entities' compensation program. We've got some have steps, some have more steps, some have less steps. Some are COLA, some are market adjustments. And I think at the same time, the authority is going under or is currently conducting a compensation survey. I think it'd be nice to get everything on the table before the Diversion Authority Board sets a policy without having all the information in front of them. That was kind of the discussion yesterday. Not that either one is right or wrong, just let's have more information. We have time to do this. It doesn't become effective in reality until compensation adjustment period. So I think there's some time to do that. And that, again, that's what happened at Finance, and somebody can correct me if they'd like to on that.
Thank you, Director Steen. Any other discussion on this item? So I will speak to the item. I know that I was part of the planning committee that voted to have the COLA adjusted, so it would be similar to the triple RDC. After having further discussion at the Finance Committee, I also would be comfortable waiting until such time we have the comp study done, until the employees of the diversion staff are classified and put into, I don't know, we're going to call it a grid, a step. We all call it different things. And then waiting at such point in time to have the discussion related to COLA, perhaps towards the end of the year, even in January. So, any other comment or discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney. Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Aye.
Mr. Salzbold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Shockley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item I have on the agenda, the board may recall that we've done these previously. This is a resolution requesting that Clay County take action to acquire road right-of-way for the SC4 project. The resolution is very similar to the prior resolutions in which we're requesting that one of the member entities take control of the road to either replat it or vacate it or close it during parts of the construction. You can see, and I believe it's page 280 of the packet, the actual road that is at issue. This is a pretty standard resolution making the request. I can certainly answer any questions. I would defer to the technical team about the specifics of the road raise itself. But you can see it is just to the west of Highway 75 on 170th Avenue South.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Questions or comments related to this agenda item? So I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Again, one more time, or opportunity for discussion or questions.
I'm looking at my Clay County commissioners.
Madam Chair.
Yep, Commissioner Campbell.
We've had several discussions regarding this topic, and we're trying to move to some sort of final resolution on it. And this is the first step, I think, in doing that. I know it's requesting the county board to do it. I do believe that we should probably have a similar request made of the MCC JPA as well to have a say to the Clay County Commission in terms of this process. But I do agree that it needs to be done. So.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Emminger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwell.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is very similar, but it's with Cass County acquiring road rights-of-way for SE2B and SE3B. If you look on pages 287 and the next couple of pages, you'll see where those precise requests for taking over the road rights-of-way are. We've done this several times with Cass County before. Happy to answer any questions, but it's a standard process where the authority requests the county to take action.
Thank
Move to
you.
approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, on this item.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Emminger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwell.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries as well. Back to you, Mr. Shockley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is a housekeeping item with the recent change in board membership. Have a resolution appointing members to the committees and boards of the MFDA. With Director Steen's appointment to the authority board, we'll need a resolution confirming that. We also have them listed as being on the planning committee. We did have a question about and we prepared an amended motion that we'll send out, but just we're requesting clarity on who from the Cass County Joint Board should be on the Land Management Committee.
And John, it was not me.
Okay. I believe it,
It's Jake, I believe.
Jake, is what our understanding was.
Yep.
And we can, as part of your motion, if you just want to include that Jake would be on the Lands Committee.
Thank you. Looking for a motion on this item.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second with the, I'm assuming the amendment that Mr. Shockley was talking about. Any other discussion or comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Emminger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwell.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item, the board may recall having seen before. However, I felt that given the time of the last approval, I did not want the approval to become stale. So just a brief background. There is a solar garden that is being constructed in the UMA area. And it's the construction of the solar garden allows for the flowage of ice and water during events. As part of the land negotiation, we wanted to make sure we had a release in place from the company that is operating the facility. And so we had negotiated a release. There's no financial impact to the authority, but we wanted assurance that if the project operated, that they wouldn't later come back and bring some sort of suit against the authority because the project operation negatively impacted the solar garden. We'd actually had the board previously approve this general release. My understanding is it sat with Noble and their general counsel for a while, and it's been over 6 months, and so I thought it was just appropriate to bring it back and get a fresh approval from the board so that prior approval wasn't stale.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shockley.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, comment, or questions on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Charlene.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
And Mr. Seljeval.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries as well. All right, Mr. Shockley, one more.
Yes, one more, and this is somewhat of a fun one, and if you think it's fun from a legal perspective, but during the course of the construction of the project, there will be times in which different hydraulic elements of the project are dewatered. So they might be stream beds, like during the crossover of connecting the Cheyenne River up to the aqueducts. There'll be a period of time in which that stream bed does not have water in it. As part of our permit obligations, as the authority, we need to make sure that the aquatic species, which could include fish, different types of mussels, are properly relocated to their habitat so that there's not a large number of kill or die-offs of those species. And so as part of that, the concept is there may be volunteers who are willing to help with that. Some of that salvage efforts could include going out in the mud and picking up mussels and fish and put them in buckets, cleaning them and put them in the river, which seems like a good project for potentially college students or others who are interested in biology. And so as part of that, we wanted to make sure that we had a release and waiver. So for volunteers that want to engage in that activity and to make it an effective release and waiver, it would be good to have the board just approve the form. We would envision using this for other types of volunteer efforts when it comes time to do that. Cass County Joint was also asked to approve this because they're the underlying owner. If there are projects that would be on the Minnesota side, we would ask the MCC JPA to do that. I'm not sure if there will be any projects that fit this, but we may come to the MCC JPA and ask for approval of this form. Happy to answer any questions. I'm not an expert on fish biology or mussels. This is just a volunteer form. So.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. I think my only question related to this agenda item is if Mayor Mahoney is going to be the one who is in charge of the volunteers, being he grew up by Devil's Lake and has really done a lot of fishing in his life.
Well, we want to make sure that they're alive when they're relocated.
Well, he's also a physician, so he likely could assist in the sustainability of
The
life.
greatest fishing on earth is Devil's Lake, so be careful what you say, Mayor Carlson.
No, that's why I figured you were very familiar with fishing, and as the doctor, you know how to, keep
Madam Chair,
pieces of the lives.
can I just add that Mayor Mahoney should only be in charge of the small walleyes, not the big walleyes.
Any other discussion or questions or comments on this agenda item?
Do you fish much on your lake?
All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Mayor Mahoney.
Mayor Mahoney.
Sorry.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Charlene.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
And Mr. Seljeval.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you. That motion carries, and I think Mayor Mahoney is very excited about his new role. Moving on to number 7, construction project updates. The first is being turned over to Colonel Swenson. So thank you for coming here to Fargo. Same with you, Ms. Williams. I know that you have spent the last 6 months or so in Maui, so thank you for bringing the Maui-like weather. I hope you can sustain it here for longer than just this weekend as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to be here today in front of the distinguished members of the Diversion Authority Board. I did just recently return from Maui, where I supported the Army Corps of Engineers emergency response mission to the Maui wildfires that occurred on that island on August 8, 2023. And it was an honor to serve there. I did work about a half day in Maui. I worked a quarter a day on St. Paul business, and I slept for 6 hours. So though I was gone from here physically, my heart and my free time were spent working on this project, as well as my teams. And I'm just it's an honor to be here today in front of you. I know it's been several months. I just wanted to relay that this week I came here with my team. We went to the Drayton Dam dedication ceremony yesterday, a phenomenal project that was part of this Fargo-Moorhead Metro project or program. I just wanted to relay that we listened to several guest speakers. I think the most powerful one was the mayor of Drayton, Mayor Chip Olson, who just shared a story that was touching to him of when he was in 5th grade and one of his classmates slipped into the dam and perished. I think it just strikes to the importance of concluding this project in this program, that we can improve the safety of the river for all of those residents who use this river. Also, it was great to meet with all of the natural resources agencies from both sides of the river and to hear their stories of how the biotic connectivity of the river has improved and how we have sturgeon spawning that we hadn't had in years because we've now removed the last low-head dam on the Red River of the North. So it was an exciting day for the Corps. It was an exciting day to see Diversion Authority members out there, as well as our Natural Resource Agency from both states. Again, came back from that, visited the Red River structure. It's amazing to see the progress. You go away for 6 months and come back. It's amazing to see the great work that's going on. And I'm really excited that the cities of Moorhead, Minnesota, Fargo, North Dakota, and all the surrounding communities are going to benefit from this project in just a couple of years, starting in the spring of 2027. With that, I'm going to pass it off to, there's no questions for me. I'll pass it off to Terry Williams to provide any further updates.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone have any questions for the Colonel before it's turned over to Ms. Williams? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. It's great to be here. For the wild rice river structure, there's not a lot new to report for the inlet and the wild rice. The wild rice are still buttoning up some punch list type items. So there's still a little work going on there as we await the arrival of the gate machinery parts and all the testing that's going to go into that. For the I-29 raise, there was a turf inspection. We're getting real close to being done with construction on I-29. For the Red River structure, the drone footage again is awesome this month. This week, they did set 2 very large, heavy bridge beams across Gate Bay 1. So big crane out there, I think 72,000 pounds a piece, so pretty cool. Couldn't do the rest of them because the winds came up, but it's pretty exciting to see them putting Gate 2 together in the bay, and that should be raised probably in the next month or so. And then the waiver form that John Shockley was talking about, we're going to need that for the Red River structure probably next summer as they reroute the river through the structure, cut off the Red River, and then we'll have people salvaging, and Mayor Mahoney salvaging the fish and mussels, and a lot of volunteers will probably help out with that effort too. So very exciting summer at the Red River structure next year. I'll jump down to Reach SE2A. And also, I talked about Reach SE4 last time too, how our contractors got off to a slow start this season. Both 2A, they're working. SE4, which is down under item 8, they've got all their paperwork in, all their key personnel identified, and they can get going as well. So number 9, our remaining design, as reported before, we have 2 more contracts to go here. We're still on track to make awards in early calendar 25. And for SC3, we're looking to put that out on the street for bids in October. And with that, any questions?
Thanks, Ms. Williams. Any
Madam
questions
Chair,
or comments?
We're just disappointed, Terry, you didn't show the picture. Governor Bergen was at the site of the inlet at Red River, and he got to be next to Chad Peterson and just take a picture to show you the structure is 8 stories high. And the governor was so impressed to see the progress that was made. Plus, we had a great tour of the inlet and just all the dynamics of what the Corps has done on that project, Colonel. It just was really fun for him to see, something that finally was done. So we're glad to see that. But Chad, you didn't show us the picture of you standing next to the governor.
Madam Chair, if I may. Mayor Mahoney, if you'd like, I can show you he sent it to me. You know what? I'll do that for you right now, just to make you feel warm and fuzzy.
I think it was on Instagram, so you maybe should have just gone to Instagram.
I'm the ugly one.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. And also thank you to Mr. Wilson, one of our co-executive directors who was up in Drayton and represented the authority, and I know provided a great speech up there. So thank you for that. And also to Commissioner Peterson and Mayor Mahoney for taking the governor on the tour since Vice Chair Grinberg and I were not available to do that yesterday. And for Chris Backyard for giving a good presentation with that. Thank you all. Right, and with that, I will turn over 7B to our Director of Engineering, Chris Backyard.
Thank you, Chair Carlson, board members. A quick update today related to the channel work. As you'll note, we've turned the channel reach 11 and 12 into in progress. So now we have all channel reaches under construction. So that was a nice milestone. We completed the final design here in the last couple of weeks, and they're mobbing in to start work on the levees for the rest of the channel, hopefully yet this year. A couple of things moved towards the upcomings. As Terry mentioned, we're very close to getting things kicked off on SE4. So there you probably see some equipment mobbing in, some activity hopefully in the next few weeks. Kind of under the miscellaneous side of things on the highlights, they are channel excavation are mostly working on levees in reaches 11 and 12 and main channel excavation in 10 and 13. For I-29, BNSF area and Hillsborough area, we are working on piling on both the Railroad Bridge and the County Road 81 bridge, so that was nice progress there. And on I-94, we have the bypasses completely constructed, so they'll be ready for full operation this winter. Likely see one lane closure for a while yet for access to the site for the construction equipment, but that will open to 4 lanes as we get to the winter months. And then kind of on the very south end of the project, we are starting piling on the County Road 16-17 bridge. So again, we've got bridge activities all up and down the channel, hopefully again with completion of a couple of those bridges yet this fall. So with that, I stand for any questions before we give the safety update.
Thank you, Mr. Backyard. Any questions or comments for Mr. Backyard? Seeing none, you can move on to the next item.
Thanks, Chair Carlson. Safety update, again, fairly quiet month. We did have one recordable event. There was they were moving a crane hammer and one of the straps broke and it actually, part of it hit one of the workers. They were taken to the emergency room, observed for a few hours. They did have a CT scan and was released back to work yet that same day. Other than that, I think a fairly clean month, just a few very minor incidents. So with that, I'd stand for any questions if you have any on the safety update.
Any questions or comments on this agenda item? Seeing none.
Right. I think we're ready for the drone.
Yep. And hopefully that individual is okay. Moving on to the drone.
Hi, I'm Tom Fuchs, the Senior Construction Manager for the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, with this month's project update. ASN constructors' teams have continued to dig down to excavate the stormwater diversion channel while building up to construct the bridges that will cross over it. In Reach 10, which is just south of I-94, crews are placing excavated material for the non-embedded levee, which must be constructed in warmer weather. Levee construction is also the focus in Reaches 11 and 12 further south. Beach 13 of the channel, south and west of Horace, North Dakota, crews are digging the main channel and placing the excavated material berms on both sides. Close to another 2 million cubic yards of the necessary 45 million were moved in the past month, bringing channel excavation to about 57% completion. Work also continues on many of the 19 channel crossings. At County Road 20, ASN constructors started early to pour approximately 700 cubic yards of concrete needed for the bridge deck. North of there, at the County Road 22 crossing, bridge girders are now installed. Our drone view also captures nearby progress on the Maintenance Road Bridge crossing the lower Rush River inlet to the channel, which is one of several river and drain inlets under construction. Northeast of Argusville, North Dakota, near the diversion outlet, ASN Constructors is working toward completion of the combined County Road 4 and 31 crossing. Crews have now backfilled both abutments, including installing geofoam, a lightweight fill material that mitigates settlement, and they are beginning to construct the concrete approach slabs. Concrete bridge railings are also underway atop the bridge deck, which was placed last month. The new crossing is expected to open to traffic later this fall. West of the metro area on I-94, bypass lanes are now fully constructed and will be ready to open before winter. ASN has completed mainline pavement removal and constructed portions of the required grade raises for the new crossings. Crews also began driving H-piles as well as forming and placing concrete for the bridge's substructure elements this month. Over at the Maple River Aqueduct, where the river, rather than cars, will cross over the channel, ASN has continued constructing segments of the concrete flume base and has begun formwork and concrete placement for the first portion of the north flume wall. H-pile installation and concrete work has continued at the adjacent wing walls surrounding the flume and conduit structure as well. To date, about 9,500 cubic yards of concrete have been placed at the aqueduct. At the Red River structure, Ames construction is nearing completion of concrete work for the control structure. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers contractor also began driving sheet piles and H-piles as well as placing concrete at the flood walls east and west of the structure. Crews also began excavating and stockpiling roughly 460,000 cubic yards of impervious fill east of the Red River on the Minnesota side of the project. This material, which is enough to fill the U.S. Capitol dome more than 9 times, will be used to construct the embankment that will cross the Red River after the river is permanently diverted through the structure in 2025. A core contractor has also been working on the Oxbow-Hickson-Bocke ring levee. Hendrickson Transportation has completed more than a mile of the inspection trench. They've also completed about 3,000 of the 11,500-foot-long embankment using excavated material from the North Barrel Pond, one of 2 ponds that will be constructed as part of the project. Get more behind the scenes views of those working to make permanent, reliable flood protection a reality by subscribing to the Diversion Current at fmdiversion.gov/subscribe.
All right, any questions or comments related to the drone footage video for Ms. Weiser? All right, you don't have any. Or I guess it would have been for Chris, but you want to take it.
I can always try to pitch in. It doesn't mean I'll give you the right answer, though.
I always think of you're doing the video and stuff.
Yes.
So anyway, moving on to the communications team update, I'll turn this over to Ms. Weiser.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We facilitated a few events with presentations and tours this past month. The co-executive directors presented to the FM Realtors group, and that's been a group that's requested an update usually 2 or 3 times a year, since obviously they're very interested in how things are proceeding, especially as we begin to look at the LOMAR. Chris Buckygard also presented to the Red River Basin Commission, and then I'm sure you're aware of the Water Topics Tour, which is where those photos are from on the slide. In addition to that, we produced a video with John Norstog and Cole Peterson, who have been working on the lands team for RRVA, and incorporated that theme in the newsletter earlier this month. For media relations, we sent a construction update that was picked up by some media, and also did a Q&A on hunting and recreational activities. The lands team has been getting questions about hunting on diversion land, that type of thing. So we tried to clarify that up front, where things are now and where anticipate they'll be going. So that's posted to the website as well for clarification. Like I mentioned, the newsletter theme was lands management. We again had a nice open and click-through rate on that content. That's all I have this month, but I'm always happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments for Amy? Seeing none, moving on to lands management update, and I will turn the property acquisition status report over to our lands director, Ms. Smith.
Yes, so board members, again, we've seen this map every month. I'm going to focus on the right-hand side of the map. You can notice that there's a fair amount of properties that have turned green. Those that are in green means we have acquired all the necessary property rights that we need for the project. Those that are in orange are currently in eminent domain, and those that are in blue are in negotiations. Those that are in yellow on the bottom portion of the screen, those means that we're still waiting for those appraisals so we can start the negotiations. Everything that is in blue has been authorized for eminent domain. We're just simply either waiting for legal counsel to file it, or waiting for the list pendants and the paperwork to be uploaded into our system. So you'll continue to see changes on this map. Some of those orange ones have been approved for settlement, and we're just waiting for those closing dates to occur. I do want to thank the Cass County Joint and the MCC JPA today. There were 3 settlements that were approved today, and I saw that our legal counsel has actually already sent the purchase agreement and closing dockets over to the property owner's legal counsel immediately after that. So we are trying to work fairly aggressively to acquire these properties and assist the property owners in relocating when necessary. On the next slide then is just an overall of the project. So for the construction footprint, we're sitting at 97% complete. We have obtained all the property rights. We do have 2 property owners that are sitting on SE3. One of them did close. Again, we're waiting for that paperwork to kind of get caught up in our database. And then we have a couple of property owners that are sitting under SE4 and 5 in Minnesota. The eminent domain process allows us to take the property rights, which we do have, but we have compensation hearings that we're still waiting to schedule. And until those have been completed and we know that there's satisfactory settlement is in place, we'll leave these at kind of open-ended on here. We did see an increase of almost 1% in the UMA footprint. And then on the next slide, we dig down just a little bit more into each of the locations. Again, 100% complete on Drayton Dam, in-town levies, the diversion channel, and the OHB ring levy. Again, working through the center embankment and associated infrastructure. Those are the ones that we just discussed. And then in the UMA, we continue to work on the acquisition of the necessary flowage easements. Just a quick Landover overview. I'll just have you skip to the next one, Peggy. So those key activities, we do continue negotiation and settle agreements. We did have a mediation this week on Tuesday. Legal counsel and myself will be bringing that forward to Cass County Joint on October 10th with a recommendation. We have a handful of mediations scheduled throughout October and starting into November. So again, still working with those property owners once eminent domain has been filed, trying to get us to a resolution. And the last month, we did successfully close on 5 parcels with 5 property owners, and we're continuing to work through that excess lands policy. We do have a lands committee meeting scheduled for the end of October. We will be bringing forward a couple more recommendations of parcels that should be eligible for excess land sales. And then a reminder in Minnesota that the vacate dates are soon approaching. So in Clay County, that's April 1st. We have 2 property owners remaining out there that have structures on their sites that will need to be vacated. The structures will need to be removed by April 1st. And then in Wilkin County, we have the June 1st deadline. I do want to note that construction is beginning on SE4. I know that the contractor is out there. That's important to note just because I'm getting high email traffic communications from property owners and their legal counsel about movement out there. So if you do get phone calls, please understand that this is newer in the Minnesota side to see that construction and that disruption. And so I do anticipate that there would be an influx in communications from the property owners in that area. Is there any questions that I can answer for you?
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Anyone have questions for Ms. Smith?
Easy enough.
All right, seeing none.
Thank
You
you.
very much, and thank you for all the work that you and your team have been doing. I know it's been a lot. Moving on to the finance update, I will turn this over to Mayor Dardis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Finance Committee met yesterday. We started 4.5 minutes late due to the fact that Commissioner Peterson and Mayor Mahoney were glamming for the camera out at the site. So they each received 10 demerits for their tardiness. Moving on, yesterday we approved bills for $8,860,276.99. Our net cash position at this point in time is $285,046,327. We had a number of board approval contracting actions that were significant, one for $1,591,000, one for $10,000, one for $913,880, and one for $296. Also yesterday, the Finance Committee was received this week our preliminary 2025 budget. It is significantly higher. If the board authority will review that, that's due to the fact that some of our milestone payments are anticipated to be paid in 2025. So there's a significant increase in what that is. Year to date in 2024 for our 313,727 budget, we have expended $96,347,098. So we have about $100 million left in the budget for 2024 upcoming. We have been in conversations with a number of the different projects. Mr. Barthol believes that there's going to be a number of these projects that may close. So that, the fact that we're about $120 million not expended for the 2024 budget, we do think that there's going to be some major expenses, both from lands and from other departments that may be coming in. I would also call a reference to the funding sources. When we're doing the draft of the financial statement, we also line item as to where our funding sources are coming from, and that information is also on the budget sheet, if you will. There is one issue that I'm going to have to spend some time with Mayor Carlson and Commissioner Grinberg is with regarding our net cash position of $285,046,327 is not in our funding sources, and we need to have a dialogue as to how those dollars are treated in the 2025 cash budget. So respectfully, I will be calling on the two of you for guidance as to how you perceive that we should account for that. With respect to Commissioner Grinberg, he also had asked that one of our consent items, 4CI, be removed. And so, Commissioner, if you have some questions specifically or how may I address this to you? Or Commissioner Steen was there, Mayor Mahoney was there, Commissioner Peterson was there. So how can we address those questions that you have on that line item?
So should we first just make sure that there aren't any questions for your finance update before we move on to the item that was removed from consent?
I stand for any questions that you might have.
Any other question or any questions, I guess, for Mayor Dartis? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the item removed from consent agenda. This would have been the Clay County 37-foot MOU. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Grinberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The intent here was a conversation that Commissioner Campbell and I had last month about the efforts of our Minnesota colleagues with their efforts in St. Paul and these additional agreements. So the intent was to pull that off and have a discussion as well as approval that was maybe representative of the full authority on giving more leverage and strength to the Minnesota delegation in St. Paul. So that's the reason it seemed appropriate to park it under finance, because it is a finance item with the outstanding efforts with Minnesota. So I don't have some specific language, but I think it's important that whether it's our minutes or it's attached to a motion, perhaps Commissioner Campbell has some suggestions.
Well, I think it'd be helpful to have a little history on this too. And the JPA that we have, it talks about any Minnesota funding in this project has to come from the state of Minnesota. That's right in our JPA that we've all signed on. And with that, part of the agreement was that Clay County and the city of Moorhead would actively pursue with the state of Minnesota that funding. And we continue to do that. The MOU that we're talking about here is critical to Clay County that it be done, because we can't have a flood control project and not have the 37 feet level apply to that area of Clay County as well. In talking with Commissioner Grinberg, what we talked about was it's important that we get the MOU signed, and so that we all in agreement that the work needs to be done. But I believe we have time, and I know I've had some conversations with Chris Backyard and our highway engineer. I think it's entirely possible for us to delay that work right now so that it allows us to have more time to do that work with St. Paul to try to get that funding. But ultimately, that project still needs to be done as part of the overall flood control project. We can't be dumping the water up in around Georgetown and not have them have that same adequate protection to 37 feet. And so, so with that, I think the memorandum of understanding needs to go forward and be done. And I believe we've have our highway engineers signed off on it. We've actually eliminated some areas, took some areas out. And I don't know if is Chris Backyard still here? Oh, there he is. Yeah. So we have tried to modify that the best we can and reduce certain portions of that work that we can. And I think it's something that these aren't real big projects by any means. And so I think there's something that we can delay the construction on them, but we really need to make sure that we have the MOU in place. And just like we have an MOU in place for areas in southern Clay County that we already have an MOU on. So that's kind of where I think we should be on that right now.
And I would just add to what Commissioner Campbell talked about with the Joint Powers Agreement. I mentioned this in the Finance Committee yesterday as well. What the Joint Powers Agreement states is that the Minnesota share shall not exceed $100 million. That's in 2015 dollars. If you calculate it into 2024 dollars, the amount is $132 million. So if you switch that number, the JPA would state that the Minnesota share shall not exceed $132 million. To date, the Minnesota funding that has been utilized to contribute portions or the Minnesota components of the project is $160 million. So the Minnesota portion has exceeded the not to exceed amount by $28 million. However, because we do want to be good stewards of this project and good partners, we have continued to seek funding for the additional components of the project from the Minnesota legislature. There's remaining about 50 million projects, or 50 million in projects on the Minnesota side. So at some point in time, this will have to get resolved, because when our governors back in 2014-15 were meeting to determine what the Plan B would be, what the project would look like, there was also discussion related to the funding. And at some point in time, there was some conversation held as to the reasons behind that Minnesota was not to exceed that amount, of which we already have exceeded that amount. So continuing conversation on this, and we will continue to lobby. The City of Moorhead and Clay County have been doing it as a joint lobbying effort for the past couple of years. Unfortunately, this past year, there was no bonding bill passed in the state of Minnesota. It continues to be a challenge for us, because there are a number of other communities throughout the state of Minnesota who are also experiencing flooding. So thankfully, knock on wood, we haven't had to deal with any of that in the Fargo-Moorhead area for a number of years, and hopefully we won't for the next couple of years. But the area of Mankato is going to be first and foremost in front of our legislators' minds, because that is the community that experienced some pretty devastating flooding. So it's a challenge for us on the Minnesota side, but we continue to do the very best we can, utilizing the resources that we have to try to explain that we want to get this thing across the finish line. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I'd make a attempt at a motion then. I would move for approval with the intent language that, to use Commissioner Campbell's language, delay, that we revisit this with an update from the Minnesota legislative session in July of 2025. So all the motion is approving the agreement and asking for an update to the full diversion authority in July of 2025. Okay. With the Minnesota request. It's an effort.
I would second that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or comments? Commissioner Pepcorn.
So I guess my comments are, so Minnesota's policy was they weren't going to spend any money on the North Dakota side. And so now what was proposed yesterday is we're taking North Dakota money on the Minnesota side. And so to me, that doesn't seem like we're playing on the level playing field. And I just want to clarify something. So the actual funding of the diversion, Minnesota has zero money in the project as far as cash money. You can't count, what you're doing is counting the in-kind projects that you're doing in Minnesota, which is great. But at the end of the day, right now we have a 50-50 split. Minnesota representatives on the diversion authority, and you have zero financial skin in the game. And the true skin in the game is going to be 14 years ago, Mayor Dardis and a group met with me, and my concern was the assessment liability going forward. At the end of the day, Cass County with West Fargo, Horace, Harwood, and Fargo, we are the backstop. When the cost goes over, we are the backstop, and Minnesota is zero. And so that's my concern. You are having lots of representation without zero financial skin in the game in the diversion. And so that's what my concern is. And I'm speaking on behalf of my constituents, because we are paying, and I totally support, pursuing Minnesota, but good Lord, it's been 10 years. Yeah. And so the other thing is, and especially Madam Chair, we want to support you, but I'm just saying, at some point we got to have something. And I know it's not you, but what can we do? Because it seems like we're the ones treating for lunch, and after a while you're like, hey man, it's your turn to buy. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep, thank you, Commissioner Pepcorn. And I guess I would just like to remind everybody that this is the joint powers agreement that was signed by all of the entities that are represented up here. I was not part of the diversion project or at that time, but the questions that you raised, Commissioner Pepcorn, has already been they were decided with the signatures on the 2016 Joint Powers Agreement. Any other comments? Commissioner Campbell.
Madam Chair, I just want to, first off, I want to talk about the efforts that are being done in St. Paul, and it's been a mutual effort on the part of the city and the county. And at the same point in time, I even want to give a thank you to our local Chamber of Commerce, because our local Chamber of Commerce has been right there on the steps of St. Paul with us on this whole thing. And so we have had a real significant lobbying effort there for that. In terms of no skin in the game, I do want to point out that we have about 65,000 residents in Clay County that do an awful lot of shopping in Fargo. And you know, I think we're paying an awful lot in terms of the Fargo and Cass County sales tax that go towards this project too. I don't want to get that far in the weeds, but there is some dollars that are being put into this by the Minnesota side as well from that standpoint. And I don't think we should be losing sight of that either.
All right. So there is a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion on this item?
Just one question, Madam Chair. Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Just curious. The motion was made by Mr. Grinberg and the second was made by
Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you. With this, then roll call vote, please, Don.
Eric Carlson.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson. Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling. Yes. Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Salzburg.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, and that motion carries. Moving on to number 11, this would be the monthly P3 update, and I'll turn this over to Parbathil.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. Give me just a second to get to the right slide here. And before you is a copy of the PMC P3 summary. I'm not going to go through the whole thing since it's 30 plus pages long, and I realize I am the only thing between you and adjournment. So
That's not correct. I have two items.
So per the agenda. So anyway, just wanted to give you an opportunity to take a look at this. This was emailed out to you. There's a lot of information in here. This is the first of a monthly report. You approved the format last month, and so this is the first time that's been populated. One thing I do realize is that for those of you who do not eat, sleep, and breathe the P3 on a daily basis, there may be some acronyms or maybe several things in here that are clear to us. And I do have to thank Amy for her non-technical review of this to help us communicate clearly to you through this. But basically, this is a progress report, gives you a snapshot, and then the attachments on the back are some of the supporting data and supporting documentation. One of the first things I'd want to go over with you is kind of the nomenclature of the SWDCAI. What is that? That is the Stormwater Diversion Channel and Associated Infrastructure. As this was originally named the DCAI as the diversion channel, or you hear it as the diversion channel. But with the WIFIA loan, the $569 million are going to be dedicated to this as a stormwater infrastructure. So we have utilized that naming convention in this document. The second thing I'd like to point out is it's 46% complete based on the earned value. And what does that actually mean? Typical construction projects, you are able to find out what the percent complete is by basically taking what has been spent to date. So as the construction is completed, per a pound of rebar, per a cubic yard of concrete, per a ton of asphalt, the contractor is paid out as work is completed. And so then you can take that percentage complete, basically what is paid out versus the total contract value. It's a little bit different in a P3 because in the contracting mechanism there, the developer is paid out once completion of the various elements have happened. And so to date, we have not met an interim substantial completion milestone, and so we've made no milestone payments. So that funding and payment mechanism doesn't really work. So it's all based off of our P6 schedule, and so there's an earned value as you go through the P6 schedule, and the developer provides the authority, provides the PMC, we review it, updated schedule. It's a project status schedule update on a monthly basis. So you'll see that a lot in there too, which is the PSSU, project status schedule update. So the first page is basically through the construction update. We also have some of the disputes that are listed there. We're all familiar with the epoxy coated rebar. That dispute is before the dispute review board. Just as an update on that, the technical dispute review board is waiting for the decision, working with the Attorney General on whether those hearings will be public meetings or not. And so once we get direction from the Attorney General, then they'll move forward with, the first will be the epoxy coated reinforcement. Then we also have two other schedule related delay claims that have been submitted to the technical dispute review board. Then we get into some of the commercial. Couple of notes that I'd like to make here. Difference from your standard project, you'll see ACRs and DCRs, okay? Those are change requests, whether they're made by the authority or whether they're made by the developer. So DCR is developer change request, ACR is authority change request. This is a 30-year contract. And so some of the changes that we do now may have trickle-down effects in operations and maintenance for the 30 years. So every one of those changes is documented and has to be agreed upon by both the authority and the developer through this 30-year partnership. And so you'll see a lot of the change requests in there are initiated by both the developer and by the authority to basically document these changes. Some of them have cost implications, others of them don't. And so if you notice, there's probably 100 change requests have already come through, both from the authority and the developer. Then as we get into the schedule, again, you'll see the project schedule status update, PSSU. Some updates there. Invoicing and payment. Total to date, we'll go down to this next one. As I said, we have not reached interim substantial completion on any of the elements, and so we have not paid out any of the pay units. We do anticipate, as Mayor Dardis noticed in his financial report, we do anticipate hitting a number of those in 2025, and then we may still hit a few of those yet in 2024. So financially, we will start to see those numbers change. But to date, we've basically paid the developer about $5 million for the work that they've done. You can see some of these. One of these things we did want to include, just to give you a heads up, with the amount of payments that could be upcoming and the dollars amounts associated with them, these are best forecasted payment date. These are based off of the schedule that we get from the developer. And then we get into some of the more just kind of the day-to-day operations and some of the things that we're doing. utility work, utility adjustments, and then the number of submittals, every one of the plan sets, every one of the plans, every one of the inspection and testing plans for each one of the contracts and for each piece of the channel. So pretty heavy lift. If you look at the number of submittals and the submittals returned with no comment and how we get to there. Another one, I'm not seeing it here. We'll get down to it when we get to our technical and design. As for quality, we do have our non-conformance and our non-compliance program that we are monitoring and enforcing that way. There's a significant number of points that are listed here, and then the backup for those are all in the attachments. So if you want to dig deeper into those, you can. And then the environmental side, as we heard from Drayton Dam and other work with our fish mitigation and work that way, we are tracking cultural monitoring also. This has been an ongoing effort joint with the developer to ensure that we are not disturbing any artifacts as we're doing excavation. And so mostly what we found out in the field is fire stains, basically where the indigenous folks would build a fire and that would change the color of the earth. We found over 100 of those, mostly along the Maple River in that area. So, and that's the quick overview. Since this is the first, I would ask that if you have any feedback, please give it to me. If there's something you want to see, if you want more details, if there's other things you'd like to include in here, please let me know. But this is, I know it's not a short document, but it is a summary of a monthly report that the PMC provides to the authority and to the authority staff. So any questions that I can answer right now?
Thank you so much, Mr. Barthel. This is extremely helpful information. I know it's quite voluminous, but I know that it's information that we all need. So questions or comments from board members? Commissioner Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I contend this is the most important thing you've ever given us. This answers absolutely every question this board should have, the public should have. This needs to be shared as suggested yesterday to the governor. This is a how are we doing and how are things going for him. And yes, it's in depth. Yes, it's, like you said, in the weeds, probably exponentially more than 99.99999% of people want to get into. But this is it. This is your cheat sheet. And this, when the public at large is locked onto one item like the rebar, cool, because it's tangible. Everyone understands what rebar is. This explains more of the intricacies and the delicacies that are transpiring within this project, both good and bad. Yep. And this is awesome. I'm so grateful for this. You have no idea. I wish we had this from its infancy, but we have it now. That's important. And again, I would share this with our state and federal partners as soon as we get it solidified and weeded down a little bit too. Pass it along, and this will be valuable for the state legislature, valuable to our friends in St. Paul as well, because everyone's concerned as to how things are going. Well, this tells you everything. This is how things are going in terms of progress and deficiencies. So thank you for doing this. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Right, and I believe that you're seeking feedback from us, so if we can
Keep it up.
each...
I will certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Commissioner Grinberg because he had two requests that he wanted to make.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As has been shared earlier today and got the press from yesterday with Governor Burgum's tour, we are on the backside of the project, more or less, with over 50% complete. And I think it would be valuable information for the full DA board to have at the October meeting a list of all our contracts by contractor, scope of work, and estimated cost that we have with this project. And my thinking would be is we'd at least have a simple sheet to look at, a list that lists everybody we're paying for this project, and then perhaps a discussion at the November meeting that maybe looks at prioritization as we move into 2025 and continuing closer to completion. It's just a good holistic look at things that we've done in the past with contractors and where we're going in the future. I think that would be a good document for the board to at least be aware of versus, every month we go and do our business. What's the holistic view of everybody we're paying for this project? And frankly, how many are needed at 100% in 2025? Can they be scaled back, et cetera? So that'd be my first request. And the second, piggyback to somewhat of Mayor Dardis's point about the budget. I think it's be a good time in the month of October for the Diversion Authority to have a refresher on the North Dakota sales tax and how that parlays into our financial model. I think it'd be important to understand the sales tax that's been discussed here from the Minnesota side, but more specifically, an update on the sales tax that we're using for the model. I think that'd just be important for us to know, and a refresher. And probably equally as important, voters are going to be asked to make decisions on 2 sales taxes here in the 40 days or so. And I'd look to Mayor Mahoney and the colleagues from the city of Fargo. If there's a desire, and the city is going to put out in 2026 an additional sales tax extension, I think that also needs to be clearly understood at this board level, if that's something we're going to need to be part of or not, so that as voters make up their minds, at least this board understands what the long-term forecast for sales tax is. So that would be my second request.
Mr. Grinberg. Mayor Dardis.
Madam Chairman, I'll be happy to facilitate the sales tax stuff, information with staff and the whole history of 2024 and previous years and our forecast going forward. We're using a 3% inflation model. So I'll be happy to facilitate all of that for you.
Thank you, Mayor Dardis. And I believe those requests will be noted in the minutes. So anything additional? Seeing none, our next meeting is scheduled for October 24th, 2024. And do we need a motion on North Dakota? I don't remember. To adjourn? Can I
Motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Okay, motion. Okay, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjourned.